Good morning, everyone. We will start the FDP very soon. Just wait for a while for the participants to join.
Hello, Chaitra. Do you have a question? I see you've raised your hand. Okay, that could be an accidental click. No worries.
A very good morning, all. Department of Computer Applications, Dayananda Sagar College of Arts, Science and Commerce welcomes you all for the 3 days national level FDP on emerging tools and techniques for web development. Our department believes in enriching knowledge of faculties and students through interaction with industry experts and academicians. In this regard, myself, Dr. Shalini Suresh, on behalf of the Department of Computer Applications, welcomes all the participants to this national level FDP. I also welcome Dr. Nagaraj Chenoy sir, Principal DSE Professor Sunita, HOD MCA, and all my faculty friends who has joined the session today. I extend a very warm welcome to the speakers for the session, Mr. Sandeep Gokhale, CEO Techvito LLP Bangalore, Mr. Bharat Ravi, Senior Software Developer, Digit Insurance, Dr. Priyanka Verma, Senior Assistant Professor, IAS deemed to be University Jaipur, and Dr. Srirekha, Engineering Leader at Amazon United States, who will be joining us for the upcoming sessions. Now I request Professor Sunita, HOD MCA, to address the participants.
Thank you, Shalini. Very good morning, one and all. Gives me immense pleasure to welcome our beloved Principal Sir Nagaraj Shinai, who motivated and supported us to conduct this FDP. Thank you, sir. I take privilege to welcome today's eminent speaker, Mr. Sandeep Gokhale, alumnus MCA, CEO Techvito, very hardworking, talented, committed, and a person with helping nature I have seen. Thank you, Sandeep, for accepting and sparing your valuable time. I'm very glad to welcome today's FTP participants. Thank you all for the interest shown to learn emerging technologies. I'm extremely pleased to welcome our organizing team, Dr. Shalini Suresh and Professor Srivatsala, who made this event possible. I take time to welcome our IQSA head, Professor Gurunath, our HOD BCA Department, Professor Hemant, IT Manager Dharmendra sir, all faculty friends, non-teaching staff and students to this event. Upskilling is very essential for computer science faculties. Web technology tools are in great demand. Updating us with emerging tools and technologies is important to make our students industry ready. Looking forward for knowledgeable sessions. Thank you all and warm welcome once again. Thank you. Principal.
Thank you, Professor Sunita. Now I request Dr. Nagaraj Shenoy sir, Principal DSC ASC, to speak a few words to the gathering.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
At the
Good morning.
outset, I heartily welcome all of you to this 3-day national level faculty development program. And I appreciate all of your commitment and interest in upgrading your knowledge. And I am very much thankful to Mr. Sandeep M. Gokhale, CEO of Techvito LLP Bangalore, for taking the initiative in enhancing the knowledge of faculty members here and the curiosity to upskill all the fellow members in this area. Upgrading your knowledge continuously is one of the most essential aspect of a teaching career. So, and especially so in your computer science field, because the technology is changing so fast that whatever you have learned even 2 to 3 years before also become obsolete today. So in such a scenario, keeping your knowledge updated and being a vibrant in this one, so that gives you an edge over all others. And in this technology area and the technology era, I say, so computer science professionals are leading it from the front. So we must we must acknowledge this fact that they are the guiding forces to all other engineering branches. So in this scenario, when you are having one such a FDP on emerging tools and techniques for web development for all the fellow members is a highly commendable. For this reason, I appreciate our computer science department to taking a lead in this particular direction and providing this kind of a knowledge. I wish you all the best, and I wish happy learning for all the participants, and this learning zeal be there with you all the time. And I wish you all the continuous learning even in the future. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, sir. First session of the FDP will be Web Application Frameworks,
Sunita ma'am,
React.js.
not sure if we can hear
Yeah.
Nagaraj Chennai sir.
Hello, Sandeep, sir. Thank you, sir. The first session of the FDP will be Web Application Framework, React.js by Mr. Sandeep M. Gokhale. I request Professor Srivatsala to introduce the speaker.
Thank you, Shalini ma'am. Mr. Sandeep Gokhale will be delivering a talk on Web Application Framework React.js. Sandeep Gokhale is our alumnus actually, as an alumni student of our college, and we are proud and privileged to have him to deliver a talk today. Mr. Sandeep has 15 plus years of experience in building and leading engineering teams to create customer-centric, quality and cost-focused platforms and services. He follows and strongly recommends people-oriented lean processes. He's an entrepreneur running a startup and also runs an EdTech not-for-profit program where he teaches React and JavaScript to students across the globe. He also runs a registered NGO called Samarpane, which caters to education of kids in rural parts of Karnataka. His hobbies include teaching, photography, blogging, Formula One, and fish keeping. Mr. Sandeep has taught 1,000 plus students, PhD holders, faculty, and peers across the globe for both online and offline. He loves when his students ask questions. So today it's a faculty development program. So he will love when the faculty will ask questions. So I request Sandeep to take over the session. And he said this is a welcome session, but I would like to thank him for his valuable time. So thank you, Sandeep, and please take over. Thank you.
Joining back, yeah. Maybe some interruption for him. He's joining back. Just tell. Left again, he'll come back.
Participants, kindly note that feedback form will be, the link for the feedback form will be sent after each session. So please do attend the session fully and please fill the feedback form at the end of the session. Sandeep?
Yeah, I've joined back. Sorry, I had a technical glitch.
Increase your sound. Once more, once
Can you guys hear me? Hello?
you are once more.
Sandeep sir, can you take over?
Yeah.
Start your session. Thank you.
Sure.
We are hearing you, Mr. Sandeep.
All right. Thank you, Nagaraj sir. Appreciate that. Let me quickly start by sharing my screen. Just give me a second. All right, let me just... Okay. Can somebody confirm if you're able to see my screen well?
Yes, we are seeing.
Okay, and you can also hear me well. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. First of all, good morning, everybody. I hope you're all doing wonderful today. Thanks for joining. I guess I kind of missed the intro, but if that happened, thank you so much. I had a technical glitch, but that's fine. Cool. Hi, Prashant. Good to see your message. So first of all, extremely humble to be here. Great to be talking to all of you, and also many thanks for this opportunity for everybody at Dayananda Sagar College who made this happen. That's a college where I studied, so I have a very I would say special feeling when I work with my college. So. With that said, I think let's go ahead and start our topic for today. That's React. Um Also, before I begin, I just want to thank each and everyone here. You're all amazing teachers and professors and lecturers who have joined here, and I'm sure all of you would have probably taught thousands of students, inspired thousands of students, and made a bright future for every student. So on behalf of all the students that you have taught or you will be teaching, I just want to take a minute and thank you all for doing the amazing work. Being a teacher is definitely not easy. You have to have a lot of patience, especially with the generation now, who are extremely fast in trying to gather information from everywhere possible. So thank you for doing this for all the students that come across your paths. Thank you, guys. All right. So um, about me, I'm Sandeep, and I'm from Bangalore. um, what else do I work as a full stack developer, been a full stack developer for throughout my career, and I've recently also started picking up a few other interesting roles as well. I've taught thousands of students, professors, and then peers across the globe. um, Teaching is one of my hobby, and I kind of like to that's one way I learn. I like to teach what I've learned, and it kind of helps me understand the topics much better. I'm also an advisor to multiple startups. I help students with career counseling, job mentoring, or even project mentoring, things like that, when I have free time. So that's a bit about me. uh, so this is where you can find me. That's my blog, where I mostly write technical stuff. If you happen to be on Twitter, you can give me a follow there, or Instagram, or that's my email as well, in case if you want to touch base after the meeting, and things like that. I would also love to get your feedback, especially what you think about the session. Was it useful, or is there anything else that could be done differently, and things like that. um, so yeah, looking forward to hearing some feedback after the session. So what I'm going to promise today is, if you follow through the whole the next 1 hour and 45 minutes, I will promise that all of you will be able to write some React today. So that's my promise. So I hope you are all excited. I am very, very excited to be talking to all of you, and then sharing what I've learned over the last 6 years working on React. So let's see how far we can go. Teaching React, or even talking about React under 2 hours is extremely challenging. But we'll see how much we can cover, and then at least the focus is mainly to make sure you guys understand the beginner things, and then eventually get going with React yourself. Or of course, if you need anything, you can always write to me or contact me via the other channels. All right. So I just wanted to start, with a question. Is there anybody in the audience who have already played with React? I mean, even a bit, or you've already worked with React. I would just like to see some things on the chat. Anybody here who has already done a bit of work on React? Okay. Manjusha says no. Shubha says no. Nice to see your messages. Thank you. All right. I don't see any S's, so that means, like, everybody are kind of new to this, because the reason I want to understand is, if there is somebody already there, then I want to address few things specifically for them. But since everybody is kind of new to React, I think it makes everyone start at the base level, so that's good. All right. So one request I want from all of you is, let's keep the session interactive. If it is possible, turn on your videos so that we can see each other. If bandwidth is a problem, no problem. That's, like, I can understand. Second thing, hi, Amanpreet Singh. Wonderful to see you, sir. How are you? All right. Cool. So
Absolutely fine.
great to hear that, sir.
Thank
um,
you.
Sure. So the next thing is, please be interactive on the session. I think a session which is not interactive is kind of, it gets boring for every party involved. So I would love to see questions. I would love to see, the curiosity, things coming on the chat, or you can unmute yourself. Feel free to do whatever is comfortable for you. You can raise your hands if that is something that helps. Let's try to keep the whole session interactive, and then try to exchange knowledge, whatever we have, with each other. So before we jump into React, there are a few things that we want to understand, right? So we all know what is a web application, right? And then to start with, there are two main parties involved whenever we speak about web applications. Okay, so I would love to hear from you guys to see what are these two parties that are always involved when we talk about web applications. So anybody in the audience, can you tell me what are the two parts that are, two parties involved anytime we speak of a web application? User, okay. Developer, Manjusha, okay. Client and server, awesome. Thank you, Jayapriya, and then Manjusha. Yes, the two major parties that are involved are, one is the client and one is the server. Okay, cool. So now, what is a client? Let's see. I mean, you may be thinking like, are we here to answer or are we here to learn? But it's both ways. So, and these are, not really specific to React. So that's why, I'm just trying to keep the whole thing more interactive. Okay. So again,
Sir, client is
Jayapriya,
the end user.
Jayapriya, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong in between. Client is the end user. Yes. Thank you, Amanpreet sir. Jayapriya said, send a request sender is client. Okay. So basically an end user, correct? For us, if we look at Zoom, sorry, this is Google Meet, right? Yes. If we look at Google Meet, then we are all end users, isn't it? Everybody agrees? And
Yes,
then,
sir.
okay, thank you. Okay, cool. Client is a SW. I don't know what is SW, Geeta. Would you like to elaborate on that? Okay, never mind. Let's give her like a couple of minutes so that she can, gather her thoughts and respond on the chat. But yes, so when we speak about clients, okay, one thing I want all of you to understand is it is not just the user, okay. There are multiple other things which acts as a client, okay. Can some of you or can you all think and share some of the things which we call as client, but they're not actually users? You may have come across it. But let's see. What are clients but not the actual users? Computer systems, correct in a way, but can you narrow it down? Browser, not really. Some parts of it, but not really. Hi, Nityanandan, good to see you. So basically, if you have used something called Postman, yes, API. There's so much chat. I'm trying to keep up and also gather my thoughts as I speak. So in case if I miss, sorry about that. Okay. So one thing is APIs, right? So when we want to test a backend, we use something called Postman, right? So that's a tool to test your APIs. So that kind of works like a client. Okay. So you can, hit your APIs and, test with that. That's one thing we can consider as a client. Okay. And different chatbots, heard of chatbots, right? So they kind of make information requests on your behalf, to the server. So they are also in a way client, right? How many of you have heard of curl, curl? Okay, so cool. So anybody else? Okay, so curl is another utility which lets you talk to the server, right? If you understand what I mean, right? So when we say client, we have to be always be mindful about who is our client, right? So it could be any of these parties, and there are some more examples, but let's not go there. It's okay. But when as a developer, when you are creating a web application, right, it can be using React or Angular, Svelte, Vue, doesn't matter, right? Whatever framework or library you're using. So the first thing you need to keep in mind is, okay, who is my client, and how do I cater to their needs, right? That's very, very important. Some of your users may be using a desktop, some of your users may be using a mobile, of your users may be using your application on a large screen, some of them may be on a mobile which is like a small screen and things like that. So these are some of the challenges that you have to work through when you work with web applications, and trust me, these are very nice challenges to look at and solve whenever such challenges arise. Okay, so we spoke enough about the client, right? So let's switch to server, right? So what does a server do? Anybody? Okay, I see a lot of responses coming in. Server provides service. Yes, very true. Give services to client. Very true. Server accepts the request and responds with the response. Provides a service. I think brilliant. I think love all the answers. Thanks for pushing them through. Appreciate it. Okay, so yes, processes client's request. Yes, thank you everybody who answered. Amazing. So that's what the server does, right? So basically it just waits there for requests from clients. As I said, the clients can be of any of these different they can come from a variety of forms. And then as soon as they get the request, they first see whether this request is valid, they authenticate, authorize, and then they respond with a proper response back to the the requesting party, right? So the next question is how does a server and a client communicate? Anyone? So we know there is a server and then we know there is a client. So how do they communicate with each other? Everybody said that yes, a server is going to accept the request, it is going to give some response, it is going to service everything, right? So how does these two parties communicate with each other? Through protocol. Amazing, brilliant answer. HTTP request. Amazing. So through protocol is the answer that I was looking for. Thank you, Viru. And Amanpreet sir also mentioned that the protocol name, which is HTTP. Awesome. So I think different protocols. That's a brilliant answer actually, right? So they communicate with different protocols, right? Like for example, anybody can name any other protocol other than HTTP. Let's see. FTP, brilliant. Okay. FTP, yes. SMTP, yes. Okay. TCP/IP, okay. I think I'm like kind of going back to my OSI, the networking classes right now. HTTPS, okay. Anybody heard of WebSockets? I didn't see that. Anybody heard of WebSockets? Yes. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so just to open this WebSockets are basically your all your real time notifications, right? How does your chat work? Okay, so let's say now Swarupini, if I'm getting the name right, she just put in yup, correct? And the moment she types it and hits the enter, all of us can see it, isn't it? Now how does the whole thing work? Okay, so that's the protocol that's behind how the whole chat and few other notifications and other things work. So they're called WebSockets. So if you're really interested, it basically works on a PubSub or a publisher and subscriber model. Very small protocol. I think you can all crack it within a couple of days. So I strongly recommend, if you have not heard of WebSockets, please go and take a look at them. It's a brilliant thing to know. Especially if you want to work on stuff where you want to do real time events, chat and other things mainly. Okay. Okay. So let's take another step forward. Okay. So we have server, we have client, we have protocols. Okay. And we have a user, but they want add one more tool, okay, to make all of this thing work. And what was that tool? Somebody above answered it already, but that was not the question intended then. But okay, let's see. So just to repeat the question, so you have a client, you have a server, you have the HTTP or HTTPS as such, all those protocols and everything wired up, and you had a user at the other end. Okay, how do you make all of these things connect? they wanted one specific tool. Okay, we use that tool probably every day on our laptops, on our desktops, on our mobile, everywhere we use this tool. What is that tool I'm looking for? Browser. Thank you, Shivatsala ma'am. Operating system, it's pretty low level, but it's of course needed. But the tool that I was looking for is browser. So Viru has a question: is it socket programming, which you call WebSockets? Socket programming, WebSockets. I think you can kind of relate to each other. Socket is probably within the network. Web, of course, you need a network, so I can say yes. But this web, that web, I would say, WSS, or the WebSocket protocol, it is what works underneath all these jargons that we use, socket programming, or web socketing and things like that. So that's the underlying protocol. Like, for example, uh, if I'm talking to you and you can see me, right, over the video or the audio, so right, there is a protocol that is working behind the scenes, which is transferring my video and audio to your end, right? So that's what I said when I said it's the protocol, right? WebSocket is the protocol. So it's underneath all these things, web socketing or socket programming, etc. Okay, Viru, I hope I answered your question. All right. Okay. So let's proceed. So we wanted a tool, and that is what we called as a browser, right? So what does a browser do, right? So the first thing it does is basically it understands what the user is trying to do, right? So if you try to enter an address, let's say google.co.in or google.com, so the browser knows that you're trying to go to a particular website, right? If you try to click on another tab, it knows what you're supposed to do, right? And once you send a request, it is going to talk to the server and come back with the response, and then it is going to paint the whole information on your screen, right? That's another thing that the web server is supposed to do, and it is doing, of course, right? How many of you know that web servers can, sorry, not web servers, the browsers can actually store data? And follow-up question, if you know, can you tell me how do they store data? Cookies? Very good. One answer. All right. Thank you. Cache, Manjaya, thank you. Yes, that is another thing. Hi, Amandeep. Good to see you. Any other answers? Yes, cookies is one. That's how when you turn on dark mode in the website and when you come to the website again, you will still see the dark mode, correct? Because that information is stored in the cookies. Yes, session is one, but that's usually on the server side. There is something called local storage and session storage, if that is what Amanpreet, if you were referring to. Web storage, brilliant answer, right? So all these things are options where we can store data on the browser. Okay. Now my follow-up question: why do we want to store this data on the browser? Let's see. Faster access, sometimes. Fast processing, Geeta says similar answer. Okay, let's see. Looking for a different answer. To same similar answer, but a different sentence. Let's see, to make the request faster. Okay. Anybody else got a different access? Sorry, different answer. It okay. I will give you guys a hint. Okay. It all boils down to how the protocol works, how the HTTP protocol works. That's your hint. Now let's see if there are any other answers. Store and forward technique. Okay. All right. I think I'm going to give you the answer. Right. All of you would know that HTTP as a protocol is stateless. Yes. So what does it mean when we say the protocol is stateless? HTTP is a stateless protocol, right? Now, what does it mean when we say, it's a stateless protocol? Doesn't remember. Thank you, Vasanta ma'am. Yes, that's a brilliant answer, right? So HTTP as a protocol cannot remember anything. For it, every request is a new request. So that's why browser as a tool had to do something, had to improvise, had to innovate, and then somehow have a place where it can store all this information and pass it along with every request that goes to the server, right? So that is why we need cookies, we need session storage, local storage, and there are a few other things where we can store the data, right? So that is the reason why we have storage built into servers, right? How many of you know that there is actually a SQL server embedded into your browser itself? Did any of you know that? Just give me a S if you knew. All right, no worries. So, maybe I can show you, where the SQL server is, and you can actually store information, retrieve information. I don't think it is persisted, for long, but you can still, just using your browser, it can act as a database. You can, do all kinds of, CRUD operations, just using the SQL server built into the browser. Okay. Uh, Yes, the browser does provide a certain level of security. If you try to hit a URL which is HTTP, it says, "Hey, you know what? This doesn't look like a secure site, so try to avoid going there," and things like that, right? So this acts as an agent, right, between the whole client and the server, right? The client as in the user, so we use the browser, and then it does everything so that whatever we want to do on the browser, it gets it done. Now, with this context, right? I mean, these are some of the reasons why HTML, CSS, and JavaScript was actually born. Okay, so with this information that we have spoken, can somebody tell me what was the need for HTML? It should be pretty simple now. If you want to unmute, you can. Please feel free to. I can repeat the question. Okay. So we had a server, we have a client, we have a browser, right? Now we know that when the user makes a request, right, through the browser, of course, the browser in turn is going to contact the server will do its work, and then prepare a response and send it to the client. And on the browser we see it, correct? This is where HTML and CSS and JS was born. Okay. So now my question is, what was the need for HTML? Correct. It is a language. That's fine. Uh, Display content on the browser. Yes. Let's see. I mean, you guys are getting very close to it, but let's see if there is a very specific answer. Pagination, Manjusha. Okay. All right. So when the server sends the response, understand by yeah, I think all of you are right in a way. Okay, so when the server sends the response, it is not really in a readable fashion. Okay, sometimes the image is coming in, in one request, sometimes a CSS file is coming in a request, and things like that, correct? We cannot just like that show it to the user, right? A normal end user, who is just a not so tech savvy user, let's consider such a person. They would not understand what is going on, correct? So there was a need to structurally show the information and present it to the end user, right? So that's why we created a header, we created a menu, we created a footer, we created pagination icons, buttons, text box, and everything, right? So that was the need for HTML. Okay, when the server sends a response, it's not really structured, right? So this is why web applications, right, web developers, I think somebody put it on there, right? So they create these HTML pages. There are many ways we can create a HTML page. It can be a static HTML which says .html, or if you're using frameworks like Angular or Vue, there are a specific way to create these or inject HTML into these things. If you're using a library like React, there is a very specific way. But eventually, they all end up creating a HTML file which knows what information to be picked and where to show, right? It's very structured, right? So now that we understand that there is HTML, so what is the need for CSS? I think this should be a very simple, one to answer. So looking forward to many answers right now. Style, okay. Formatting content, yes, thank you. Very good answer. Let's see. Anything else? Beautify, okay, that's cool. I think that's really enough answers to figure out why what was the need for CSS, correct? So if you just put in some text, right? Now if you just look at the screen I'm sharing, right? So you can see that there are certain things which are bold, some of them are having a larger font, there are numbers 1 2 3 4. Hello Rajesh, good morning, good to see you. uh, Multiple things, right? So this is why, I mean, if you just show everything in regular text, it's very difficult to understand what is correct, or grasp the information. It's very difficult to take the focus of the user to a specific place and things like that. So it becomes essential to start styling the application, putting in some colors, and then showing important things in a specific way, trying to help the user to understand what is the important thing that he needs to see on that page, and things like that, right? Okay. So now comes the very important thing, right? So we understand why HTML is needed, correct? The server sends the data, and of course we cannot just show it like that, so we need to put it in a structure. Once the structure is there, we kind of put some paint to it, and then colorify it, beautify it, and everything. Okay, awesome. That's settled. What is the need for JavaScript? Let's see who is going to answer this. What was the need for JavaScript?
You can design a dynamic web page by using JavaScript.
Okay, that is right. Thank you, Raghu. If
Raghavendra.
Oh, Raghavendra. I just see Raghu. So, yes, very good. So, to design dynamic websites, but let's see. So, Aman Preet sir is saying for animation and validation. Yes, Virus sir is saying like client side validation. Yes. See, when JavaScript started, I think it was like 35 years before, right? Um, and there was no really dynamic stuff, right? So basically it started as a client side validation stuff. Now since Angular JS, which was about 2008 and 2009, that's when the dynamic stuff started happening. That's what we call as web 2.0, isn't it? So it adds behavior to the web page. Yes. I think so. Basically when you type in an address on the browser, right, you need JavaScript to read that address. So that is step one why we need JavaScript, right? When you type in, you see the address. Like for example, this address on the browser is meeting.google.com, correct? The browser cannot read it directly. You need JavaScript to help that with that. Okay, the browser cannot make the HTTP request. You need JavaScript to make that happen. The browser cannot read the request, right? You need JavaScript for that. So this is the essential thing. After that, everything else is like kind of evolution, and how much JavaScript as a language evolved, and then came Ajax, and now the dynamic websites, lot of frameworks that has come out, libraries and things like that. And we are going to look at very interesting library today called React, right? But essentially, just before I start, I just wanted all of us to understand what was the need for this whole damn thing called React, right? Why did we need that? Okay, so let's take a step back, right? How did the web application as such evolve, right? So these are some of the fundamental pillars. If you try to understand and do some more reading, and then structure your understanding around these things, it becomes very easy to understand what is the need for JavaScript. very easier to understand, like, what was the point of all these, different languages, or sorry, different frameworks and libraries that we have. So usually this is how I start my session. Just take a step back, figure out why we wanted all these things, and then, come to a conclusion or a logical understanding, like, okay, this is why we needed React, right? So many other things, but I'm just giving you the direction right now, because there's only so much we can cover into OS, right? So of course, if you just have the browser, a client and a server, I think that's not enough. You need various protocols. There is something called DNS. Does anybody know what is DNS? And then you needed HTTP, TCP, IP. There's so many things that you wanted, right? What is HTTP? Right? Data name source. No, it's not DNS. I guess DNS is domain name resolution, something like that comes. Domain name systems. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's DNS, Viru, sir. Okay, so what is HTTP? Let's see. Should be a very simple answer. Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Thank you, Shreya. Appreciate it. What does hypertext mean? Please, I don't know, but let's see if you can answer it without looking it up. Okay, we know what is transfer. Okay, so it takes something from place A to place A being client and the server, and or server and client. That's transferring information. Protocol, we understand what is a protocol. So basically, there is some semantics, there is some, syntax, and there are some rules. All of them work together, so both the parties will know protocol. That's fine, right? So that's transfer and protocol taken care. What is hypertext? Right, HTTP as a protocol is like way back, right? Maybe even 40 years as we speak. 92, and then yeah. So um, anyone who understands what does hypertext mean? Okay, what is text? Then we'll go to hypertext. Okay, Deepa has a right answer, I guess. Linking between the documents is called hypertext, and Manjusha says hyperlink. Content used to display on the web page is called hypertext. Okay, so just to clarify, I think I have certain answers there which are kind of right. So hypertext is a text that you see on a web page, which when you click on it, right, it takes you to another resource. So that text is what we call as hypertext. Okay, there could be text which if you click, it may not take you to anywhere, correct? So such texts are just text, and text which has a link under it, right? So they are called hypertext. Okay, so what are the links actually called? Let's say there is a hypertext, correct? What do you, I mean, basically, what is the name for such links? Anyone? Okay, I think there is an answer here already. Hyperlinks, exactly. Yeah, I was about to say that, right? So if you see this word hyper actually, repeats, right? Have you heard of something called the anchor tag? A links, exactly, right? Yes. Okay. Now, in the anchor tag, you give a specific attribute, correct? Which tells you, okay, when you click on this text, it has to take me to this location, correct? Href. Perfect. Thank you, Amanpreet sir. What does href mean? What is H in href? Hyperreference. Exactly. So I mean, this is the beauty of the whole thing, right? So no, this is how I have enjoyed learning computer science, especially web technologies, where there is specific meaning for everything that they have given. We just need to be curious about, okay, what the hell is this, and then we need to figure out, and then try to answer them, or try to find answers. Of course, the answers are all there. We just need to invest some more time, and then take a look at those answers. All right. So I'm going to pause here for a few seconds and see if there are any questions. We have spent about 30 minutes. So I just want to pause and then see if there are any questions for me. Okay. Uh, I don't see anything on the chat, so that's fine. Statelets. Oh, okay. So Manjusha has a question. What are the roles of CGI? Okay. Let me answer Manjusha's question. So stateless protocol is basically a protocol which cannot remember anything, right? If you make 10 requests, right, it cannot differentiate or it cannot remember anything from request 1, request 2, things like that, request and whatever, right? So such protocols we call it as stateless. So another way of looking at it is, okay, what are stateful protocols, right? For example, FDP is a stateful protocol, right? So when you initiate an FDP transfer between servers, right, it says 10% transfer, 20% transfer, 30% transfer, correct? It remembers how much has been transferred over, right, from the previous request to the current one. So such stuff is what we call as, stateful protocols. Yeah. I hope I've answered your question, Manjusha. Uh, and then Dr. Manjaya, if I'm pronouncing your name well, what are the roles of CGI? So common gateway. Sir, can you please give me some more context? Because I'm not sure what you mean when you say common gateway. Uh, are you talking about API gateways in general, or how is it? I'm not sure. So if you can put it on the chat, I will, come back to that question if that is okay with you. Interface between client and server. I think probably you're talking about something like a proxy. Oh, okay. All right. I'm not getting any sound. Uh, I think everybody else is, hearing me, Rahul sir. So if you can probably rejoin, I think it may be helpful. And he may not be able to hear that. Sorry. So please join back. All right. Cool. So yeah, I mean, basically proxies are nothing but agents, right? So if you are in a specific network and you don't want to expose your IPs and everything, so what you do is you send your request from your laptop to a proxy, and then the proxy will eventually forward the request to the server will respond, and the proxy will know to which client it has to route it back. So that's called proxy. And there is something called reverse proxy. If you have heard of Nginx, we usually use that on the cloud, and even non-cloud premises. So we use Nginx as a reverse proxy. Reverse proxy means like it's a proxy but it sits on the server, so every client request goes to Nginx, and Nginx decides where it has to route all these different requests within the server. Or it can be like there could be like I would say multiple servers behind a load balancer and everything. Eventually it knows where it has to route the request. So there is a proxy which is usually on the client side, there is the reverse proxy which is on the server side. Okay. I hope I answered your question. All right, let's proceed. So I think there is no, there is no React, I would say, session or talk, which is complete if we don't talk about JavaScript. It's very, very essential. Simple reason being, I mean, this is, since the advent of Web 2.0, which is like Angular JS and React and all these things, I think it has become super essential to learn JavaScript. It's very, very essential, right? And the reason is this. Okay, now this is the power of JavaScript. So you can work on front end, Angular, React, and things like that. You can work on backend, learning one language. I'm saying all these things are achievable. Okay, backend as in Node.js. You can create a lot of mobile applications using React Native and things like that. You can create desktop applications. There is something called Electron, which kind of runs on using JavaScript. We can create desktop applications. Have any of you used Visual Studio Code? Yes, so that's basically written in JavaScript. Okay, so for people who don't know what is Visual Studio Code, it's an IDE. It is open source, it is free, and it is from Microsoft. Brilliant product. Once you use it, probably you don't have to switch it to any other IDE. And then you can work on machine learning and things like that. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, so there was some glitch. Not sure what happened. Let me join back. I'm sorry about this. I'll join back. Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm really sorry about that. I just got a notification that the video thing kind of broke. So please do excuse me. I would not be on video for some time. I don't know when this will be resolved, but I hope that's fine. Uh, let's go back to where we started. And you guys can hear me well. Can one of you please confirm? Yes, amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. So, yeah, I was talking about the power of JavaScript, isn't it? So, it's so much, all these things open up when we learn one particular programming language, and that's the power. This language is also essential for any applications that we have to do with JavaScript. So, I mean, if you are somebody who wants to, say upskill yourself, I always suggest JavaScript as one of the recommended things, because learning one language and it enables you into all these things that you can get into, right? All right, so let's go forward. uh, JavaScript as a language did not happen overnight, right? If you remember, or if you already know about it, JavaScript was created famously in about 11 days. And then the first version, they just wanted to ship it quickly and things like that. But then it did not stay that way, right? Over the last few years, since 1995, right? That's close to about 30 years, I would say. JavaScript as a language has evolved a lot. Okay. It started as like a very small thing, but then eventually the whole evolution, and because of the range of products and the libraries and the frameworks that are coming through, I think the evolution of the JavaScript as a language has been a lot of. I mean, that's one of the core reasons why we have a lot of things, right? Now, because the language emerged and evolved, I think it led to something like this. Okay, can you all identify things here? Can you put in names that you can recognize on the chat, please? Okay, PHP, cool. VB script, jQuery, Angular. Okay, I will wait for a few more seconds to see if there are more things coming through. All right. So, uh, JSP, wow. JSP was a very nice answer. I was not expecting that, but it's a very interesting thing, because I have also played with JSP for a while. Ruby, Unity, nice, good to see. jQuery, Angular, JSP, nice, good to see so many things that people are trying. So, what happened was, this happened. Okay, uh, basically, with all these things coming through, and then kind of doing more or less the same thing, the ecosystem of developers were kind of split into I would say it was kind of split basically. Some people would say like, Angular is very good, and some people would say, go ahead and claim that no, React is awesome. Some people will come back and say, hey, have you guys tried Vue? It is better than everything else that is out there, and things like that, right? So this kind of a split actually happened within the developer community mainly, right? Because of how the language evolved, and all the different companies like Google and Facebook, which is now called Meta, and everybody, they wanted to get into this space and then create something revolutionary on the UI front, right? Anybody recognizes this movie poster? Can somebody call out the movie name? Avengers Civil War. Awesome. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, but eventually, I just want to add a point here saying that all these tools are actually good. Okay, there is really nothing that this tool is good or this tool is bad. It is purely about how do we use this, how do we use the tool, right? So for certain scenarios, a framework like Angular can be very well suited, and React may not be very well suited there, and there may be some scenarios where you can have I would say React as a a better option. So I always when I compare tools, I always think about it in a couple of ways, right? So let's say you want to cut a piece of paper, right? You can use a scissor, or you can also use a chainsaw, right? I mean, both are used to cutting something, but as a user or somebody who needs to do something, you should be in a position to say, should I use scissor here or a chainsaw, right? So that's the difference, right? This is something that a lot of people don't actually get, and then they get into this zone where they try to figure out, okay, this is good, that is bad, and then there are conversations around that. To me personally, I think they're all tools. We just have to look them as tools. We should not be emotionally attached to any of them. We have to pick what works best for that particular time, or for that particular team, or the challenge that we are trying to solve. Okay, so with that, let's talk about React, right? So I have about an hour left where I also want to do some code demos with you guys, and I've promised that you will all be able to write React today. So let's get going with that. So I want to ask you guys a question again, right? So why did you join this call today? Why are you trying to learn React? I want to see a variety of answers. So please be fast, because we have an hour more and I want to talk a lot of things today. Why are you trying, or why are you interested in learning React? New technology. Okay. Thank you. Let's see other answers. Rahul is already learned it in 2019, now trying to upscale. Okay. Updating, trying to be a full stack, upskilling. Perfect answers. Let's see if there is anything else. I'll wait for about 10 more minutes. Component based. Okay. Not surprised with that answer. Rajesh, thank you. Anyone else? Hybrid mode of learning. Okay. I don't quite understand, Dr. Pooja. What does it mean when you say hybrid mode of learning? But if you would like to explain, I'll be happy to see that. But I mean, eventually, whatever answers, I think all of you have given, they're pretty valid. Okay, so let's try to understand. So Amanpreet sir says React have a creativity. Okay, cool. React is the new language to make the web page faster. I want to ask a question: is React capable of developing hybrid apps? Yes, Rahul. So if you mean about hybrid in terms of web and mobile apps, yes, there is something called React Native, which is again, we use React to create mobile applications there. So definitely the answer is yes. Okay, so uh, very fast and responsive. No need to refresh the page in React. Okay, cool. Like those answers. So let's see. Now that we understand, why we want to learn React, let's try to understand what React is all about. Okay, whenever I try to talk about React, this is the first thing that I always show, to my, to people who are like listening to this conversation. So what do you see on the screen? Right? I mean, I don't know what you guys call, because we're all from different parts of, India. But what do you call this? Blocks. Uh, okay, they are called building blocks. Building blocks. Okay. Let's see. Reusable blocks. Okay, I think we can just call them as blocks. Okay, to me this is React, right? Now if I ask you all, okay, let's say there are multiple shapes here, right? There is a rectangle, there is a square, there is a two column thing. Let's also consider that there is a small circular thing. Okay, using these reusable building blocks, what can you build? Use your imagination and put it on the chat. A car, very good answer. Okay, let's see. A house, thank you, Shivama. Yes. Train, yes. It can be a building, yes. Come on, others. A track, yes. Thank you. Castle, nice. Okay, cool. Yes, perfect. Right. I think we have enough answers. So basically, this is what is React. Okay. So, I mean, the whole idea is when you look at this file, you actually do not know what you can actually, what all things that you can build with this. But if you have enough of those blocks, right, and enough of those shapes, you can literally build anything using these blocks. And now that is the power that React came in when it got launched. They just said that, okay, so far, whatever, the web application development that we are doing, we are doing it wrong. We're not thinking in terms of reusability. Yes, there are ways where you can build blocks, but can you guys hear me?
Yes, Sandeep, we can hear you.
Okay, it was just showing that there was some
Yeah, so, yeah. 1 second, there was a delay. Yeah.
all right. Yes, Mr. Sriram, was there a question for me? Do you want me to repeat what I said?
No, 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 sir.
All right. Okay. Sorry about all these technical things. Usually not the case, but sometimes we need to have a little bit more luck when things are online. All right. So I see yes. So I'll just repeat. Okay. So this was the reason why the team from Facebook they said that whatever we are building right now, way back, like before the React got launched, they said that that's not the way to build it, because we're not thinking like in terms of reusability as the first principles. Okay, and then they said that, okay, this is the way to build UI. And then eventually every other framework or library that was there, they also accepted that, and they also changed their concept and tweaked towards this thought process. So for the next few days, okay, whenever you work on React, I want all of you to remember this image. Okay, if somebody says React, if you get this image on your mind, I think then you can easily relate to what we do with React. Okay, so moving on. So React is all about simply creating a lot of components totally, right? So the main thing that we create is in React is components, and everything that you see here, we call it as components. Of course, I mean, this is building block, but eventually I think you are able to relate what happens when we create a project or an application in React. Okay, so we end up creating components and components and components. Okay, there are two other things that we should know to start with React. Okay, so one thing is called component. Yes, we create a lot of components. We're going to do that very soon. And then there are two other things. One is called props, and the other one is called state. Okay, so these are two things specific to React, and then this is how React helps us create reusable components. Okay, this is where reusability and then the dynamism and everything is possible with React using these two concepts called props and states. I'm going to show you what is a state, what is a prop, like, once we do the demo. Until then, please bear with me. Okay, so the official definition, if you look at the website, it says like the idea is to split the user interface, okay, into independent reusable pieces, and then think of each of those pieces in isolation. So what does it mean, right? If you're looking at the chat, right, just the chat box I'm saying, right? So there is a list of messages that come through, and then at the bottom, there is an input text box which says send a message to everybody, and then there is an icon which is a button, and when you type something, it gets enabled, and when you click on it, it goes to everyone, right? Now, this is an interface, correct? Everything that we see on the browser is a user interface, and if we focus on only the in-call messages, right, we can split this into multiple components. Okay, the first component could be the header with the close icon. Okay, all of you can, I hope all of you are able to see that. Okay, you don't see that when I share the screen, but I think you can see on your respective desktops, right? Or laptops or mobiles, however you're using it. And then there is a message which says messages can only be seen by people, etc., etc. So that could be one component. And then there is a list of messages, right? That could be one component. And in each message, right, or in that messages list, there could be if you see, there is a repeating pattern. There is a name. For example, I'm taking Deepa Chintala's name as example. So the name comes up, and then there is a timestamp which says 12:05 p.m. for me, and the message reads like it can be a building, right? If you look at the next message, which is from Sridhara and Hegde, right? Um, Again, you can see the pattern, right? So there is a name, and there is a timestamp, and there is a message. So all of these things, if you look at it, is just one component which is running in the loop, correct? Every time there is a new message, we show, that we render the same component. Basically, we have to write that component once and then pass different inputs to it. So first time, the name can be Deepa. Second time it can be Sridhara Hegde, and things like that. Okay, so this is how React said that this is how you have to start thinking about UI. Okay, so I'm going to read the definition once again so that we are all on the same page, right? So the idea is to split the UI in our case is the in-call messages that pop up that you see on the Google Meet into independent reusable pieces, right? So it should be independent, right? They should not be dependent on other things. Of course, you can add conditions and other things, but eventually try to split them into independent pieces and reusable pieces, right? So for example, the message component here, right, that shows the name, timestamp, and then the actual message, that becomes a reusable piece here, right? Because you can see that repeated everywhere. um, okay, and then what we need to do is we need to think of those things in isolation. Okay, I saw there was a hand raised. I just got an alert. Is there a question for me right now? If not, I will proceed.
Sandeep, kindly proceed. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Srivatsalam ma'am. Sure. Okay, so a little bit more about React. So it's an open source, UI library. There is a difference between library and framework. We can speak about it if we have time. Otherwise, I really suggest you guys can take a look at it and understand what's the difference between a UI library and a framework, or let's say library versus a framework. React is very good in doing two things. Okay, it can render UI, render as in show, information on the browser, of course, and it can respond to events. Right? What could be an event? Can somebody tell me? When we look at web applications, what is an event? You can use chat or you can unmute yourself. Yes, event is an object, event is an action, but not technically speaking, but let's say as a user, what is an event when it comes to a browser? Okay, I'm just still looking for the answers. Change in the environment, clicks, double clicks, exactly, right? when you're so the answer that I was looking for is, all the actions that you do on a browser, right? You click on some link, that triggers an action. You double click on something that triggers an action. You enter, something into the text box. Let's say you want to log into your Gmail, right? So what you do, you log in, you go to the gmail.com and put in your user ID. The moment you type, let's say, Arpana is trying to log in, okay? And if she presses A, right, and if she doesn't see A coming on the browser, what will happen? You guys understand what I'm saying? So so these are what we call as events, right? So basically they are very, very essential. And if they don't work well, your user at the other end is like, totally confused, and it's really not a good state to be in, whether for the user or the application owner or the developers, or the business owning this whole thing and everything, right? So it has to be reactive, it has to respond, it has to show information. And I would say React is extremely good in doing this. Okay, so that's why it is extremely popular in the market. And then about 70% of the websites, I was looking at Stack Overflow survey recently, about 70% of the websites that are being created now, they run on React. So that's a lot of reason to learn JavaScript and also React, right? Plus it's very easy to learn. One thing I want to add here is, like, the moment you know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, I would say you will eventually become, or picking up React will be very, very easy for you, because React as a library is a very small library. There is really not a lot to learn when you compare it with frameworks and other things. So the more you learn about HTML, the more you learn about CSS, the more you know about JavaScript, I would say your learning of React becomes very, very easy. So do not jump to React directly if your base knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is not good enough. Okay, because you will get confused, because there is nothing else that we write. I would say 90% of the things that we write in React is either HTML or JavaScript or CSS. Okay, there is only about 10% of things that we do. Also, it depends on the application, but for anything, at least for a beginner thing, right? So there is only 10% of stuff that we have to know about React. But otherwise, if you know the remaining three very well, I would say you can start working on very good, decent stuff already, with very basic information about React. Okay, so there are few reasons why React is very special, right? One is the component-based model, or the thinking about it, right? So pre-React, we were not thinking of UI as components, right? We were not thinking of reusability. We were not thinking of composition and things like that. But React said that, we need to start doing all these things. So when you see those building blocks, right? So that is what we technically say, this is component based modeling or component based thinking, right? So you take a look at your UI, and then you start splitting that UI into multiple reusable components, so that it becomes very easy to even make changes or maintain the application and things like that. Composition is basically, if you have a button and if you have a text box, what are all the things that you can create? Correct, you can create a login page, you can create let's say a password reset page, you can create a forgot password page, you can even create an application which is as big as filling your new passport application, because it's just text boxes and buttons, right? And there are some drop downs and here and there, right? So this is what we call as composition, right? Of course, it's a little bit more than that, but eventually bringing two things together and making something more meaningful out of those two is what we call as composition, right? So those are two things. And also the ecosystem, right? So React as such can only render the information. Okay, it can only show information on the browser, and it can only show stuff, or it can also respond to events. Like if somebody click the button, it knows what it has to do. If somebody selected a radio button, it knows what it is supposed to do, and things like that. Okay, and beyond that, it cannot do a lot of things, right? For example, if you want to go from page A to page B, React says, sorry, you need to use another library, which is typically, in the industry, we reach out to something like a React router and things like that. Okay, so there is reach router, there are multiple routing libraries. Let's say you want to go and fetch information from the browser. React says, sorry, that is not possible. Okay, this is not my purpose. I'm not here to do that. You have to use another library. So as such, the ecosystem around React has grown very, very beautifully, that there are a lot of different libraries that you will eventually use to make your entire React project up and running. Okay, now that's one of the good things, and that's also one of the not so good things, because now, other than React, you also need to start learning how does this React router work, right? That's again another even smaller library, but still you need to learn, right? To fetch information from the server, you may have to use JavaScript fetch, which is now natively built into JavaScript, or you can use something like Axios and things like that, which will make HTTP requests to the server, and then bring the data to React. And once you give data to React, it is very good at showing information on the screen. Okay, so this is one of the good things about React, where it is very good in doing only UI, rendering information and also responding to events. That is also sometimes considered the difficult part with React, because you need to also understand the tooling around it, right? That is what we call as React Inference. But not a big deal, I would say. If you are able to understand one or two of these tools, everything else is kind of similar, and working around things which are only different stuff, right? So let's look at one specific thing, and then I think we will stop with the technical thing, and we'll switch over to doing the coding itself. Okay, so what is a React component as such? Okay, so React component is a tiny system on their own. Okay, so that's an independent system. Okay, what does this system has? Okay, so it has some data and it has some logic. Okay, so this is what a React component will usually have. Okay, it can take some data, it can run some logic, and then eventually it is going to output a user interface. Okay, now the data can come in two ways. One is called props, and the second one is called state. Okay, and then eventually all the output that we do will be in some form of HTML. Whatever React is giving, or whatever a React component is going to output, that will always be some form of HTML. Okay, so just to do a quick recap, it's a tiny system on their own. Each of these components are small systems. They take in data. Okay, they apply the logic to that data. Okay, and that's what happens inside the React component, and it is going to give some user interface in the form of HTML. Okay, and the data can come as props or state. I'm going to tell you what is prop and what is state when we start playing with the demo. Right. So we will see this soon, but I'm going to stop here for a second and see if there are any questions from any of you here. Go on. It's totally fine if you have a question. Okay, Amanpreet sir says, okay, everything is fine. Let me still wait for a few more seconds. If you have a question at all, feel free to. I mean, that's when everybody learns. Okay, what are the differences between a simple JS and React JS? Okay, that's a brilliant question. Manjaya, thank you so much for shooting this question. I really like it when I get questions. That's something I really like. So, what's the difference between JavaScript and React? Right. So, JavaScript is a language to start with, right? So, it has its own syntax and everything. And React is a library built on top of JavaScript. Okay. So, it uses various things, and then it helps you create user interface by taking in data in the form of states or props, and then eventually giving out a HTML. Okay, so that could be, you can call that as the difference between JavaScript, which is a language itself, right? With JavaScript you can write web applications, mobile applications, you can do games, you can do machine learning, artificial intelligence, name it, you can do it. But React as a library sure. React as a library is just something that can render information on a browser or on a mobile screen, right? That's the only thing it can do. Got it? I hope I was able to, give you an answer, Manjaya. Let me know if you want me to elaborate on any other topic on this. So JSP is Java Server Pages, if I remember it right, Amanpreet sir. So I used it way back. Basically, the way it works is similar to PHP, where you put in server blocks within your HTML code, and then that adds some part of dynamism to the whole application, right? Who was it? The other person? I have lost all my chat history, but I cannot recall. I think it was Jyoti or somebody who said that they have also played with JSP. But that's what is JSP, Java Server Pages. It's a pretty old thing. I don't think people are using it anymore to create web application. But people could be maintaining applications with that because of legacy reasons, financial things where you cannot move into a newer technology and things like that. Okay, but pretty similar to how PHP works. All right. So, uh, any other questions? Happy to take them. All right. So, let's go back and do some stuff, right? Are you all able to see my screen where I'm sharing, a code sandbox link? Can somebody give me a S, please? Just want to make sure because when I start coding, I want all of you to say that. Okay, cool. So because it's little dark. Sorry about that. I don't like light mode. I usually have dark mode turned on, and that could be the reason. But maybe try increasing your brightness, Deepa. It could help. But if you are not able to see, I guess this should be good. What about others? Is it fine now? Kindly zoom it. Still, font can be increased. I have already done it. Not sure. Is this is totally? Is this okay now? Okay, cool. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Uh, I think it could be because I'm using a wider screen here, and maybe on the Zoom it is really not that zoomed in. I'm not sure if there is a zoom control here. Let me quickly check for it. Still bigger font. Just give me a second, please. Okay, I'm going to still, make it further uh, larger, but I am not able to use the application as such. Anyway, that's okay. Is this good enough, everyone? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Sorry about that. I think I was not expecting this to happen. Usually, it comes out very well. I'm not sure, why this was the case this time. Okay, so the website that you see is called codesandbox.io, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on the chat. Okay, so all of you, please sign in. You can sign in with your GitHub account, or if you have let's say an email ID, you can use it. It's a very simple sign up process is pretty simple, and also this is free. You don't need to worry whether, okay, is this going to cost me or anything. It's just a free thing where everything is set up so that you can start playing with React. Okay, so once you have opened it, you just need to go to file and start a new sandbox. So this is what you will have to do. And when you click on new sandbox, select quick start, start from a template and use React. Okay, so you can do a lot of other things. As you can see, Remix is a new framework, Vue.js is another framework, Next.js is a framework, Angular is a framework, you have React, Node.js. You can do a lot of things with this tool. If you have not used it, I really strongly recommend this particular tool. Okay, so what you see here is what we call as JSX. Okay, uh, don't worry, I'm going to give you guys 10 more minutes at the end so that you can all play with it and then create your first React component. But until then, I request all of you to focus on the screen now. Okay, so when you open, you have multiple files, packet.json. If you're coming from a Node.js background, you would understand all these things. But I mean, right now, because of the time constraint, we cannot go and look at all these things. So what I would probably start is understanding app.js. Okay, so uh, the moment you change anything here, okay, I'm just going to say hello, everyone, right? And then save it. Please observe what happens on the right side. Okay, all I'm doing is I'm going to save this using my keyboard shortcut, which is Control S. And then immediately you can see the change happening, right? I did not do any build, or I did not do any compile, or really there is nothing else that needs to be done. The moment you save the file, I just use Control S as the keyboard shortcut. It reads the new code, and it also updates your interface, right? So this is what we call as a React component. Okay, so the name of the component is app. Okay, so that's the React component, and what this is doing is you can see that it is a function, which means we are writing JavaScript here. Okay, everything you see here: import, export, default, function name, and the curly braces, all of that is JavaScript. Okay, all of that is JavaScript that you see on the page. Even return, right? If you have worked on JavaScript, you understand what is a function. You know that it's like writing a function which adds two numbers, correct? You will say function, and you may give it a name as sum. You open the bracket, return a plus b, where a and b is passed as parameters, right? So this is also very similar, but only difference is, and the important difference is, you should notice that what is it returning? Can somebody tell me what is this? Is it JavaScript or what? HTML. Thank you, Manjusha. Exactly. So JSX, this whole syntax is called JSX. Thank you, Rajesh. But if you look at it and observe carefully, and remember the definition that I showed you, a React component, right? It uses some data, it has some logic inside this, and eventually gives UI. And always the output is some form of HTML. So whenever you want to output something from a React component, you always have to return a HTML. That is step number one, which you all need to understand. Okay, so this is uh, a very basic, simple React component. Okay, so but we won't stop there. We are going to create another component, which we will name it as welcome, and then we will see how to render that component, and then eventually make that component dynamic. Okay, so what I will do is I will just create the component in the same page, and then this is no way the industry standard. People usually have different approaches, where every component or every file is having only one component. But for the demo purposes, I think it is totally fine to use everything within one file. And also it is very easy to start, so that you can see every code that you have written there. Okay, so how do you create a React component, right? Every React component is a function. Previously, we can write React components in two ways, and I'm saying this is probably 2018, when React 16.8 came out. They said we are introducing hooks and things like that. So um, previous to that, let's say React 18, 16.8, and earlier versions of that, we used to write two kinds of components. Okay, one is called a class component, and the other one is called a functional component. What you see is a functional component here, because we are using the JavaScript function. When I started my React journey, we also used to write something called a class component. Okay, but after React 16.8, nobody's writing class components anymore. Everybody is writing it is supported. That is one of the wonderful things about React. It is always backward compatible. But now the functional components have become so much powerful that we really don't need to go with class components. Okay, so let me show you how to write a functional component. Okay, welcome. Okay, so now this is a regular JavaScript function, right? There is nothing fancy about this right now until we start returning HTML from this. Okay, so I'm going to say return. Okay, please also mind the syntax when I'm typing through, because that will be very important. Okay, I'm going to add a semicolon here, and then I will say return. I would add a div. Okay, and I'm going to close a div, and I will say h3. I'm going to close the h3. Okay, and then here I will say hello world. Right now, when I save it, it does some automatic formatting and everything. And this is a React component. Okay, you don't see anything on the screen simply because we have only declared a React component. We have not invoked it. We have not called it anywhere. Okay, so the second step, what you need to understand is, how do you call a React component? So let's say somebody has created a component, you want to call it, correct? How do you call that to start with? So what we need to do is, and this is the beauty of React, right? It's very close to how HTML works. Okay, what we do is, how do we create a h3 tag? We say h3, and then we close this, and then we give something here, and then sorry about the typos. Right now there is a h3 tag that is coming in. Okay, very similar to this syntax is how we call the React component also. All we need to do is have this brackets, right? And then give the name. So I would simply copy the name. There is no need to copy the braces. Okay, and I will put it here, and I'm going to make it a self-closing tag. Okay, now if you see the red circle, a white red circle here where my mouse is pointing right now here at this region, this means the file is not saved. So you won't see any difference here. Okay, now please observe this area. When I just save the file, okay, we see hello world. Right now, this is how you actually create a React component. As simple as this. Okay, create a function, let the function throw some HTML back, return some HTML back, and that is just the function or the component declaration. And then once the component is declared, wherever you want that component to show whatever it is supposed to show, just call the component by using a very similar HTML like syntax, using the angled brackets, and give the component name, and then you get the HTML whatever is outputted from here. So if I make changes to this, I will add three dots, save it, it should immediately reflect here. See, as simple as that. So this is how easy it is to get started with React. Okay, I will show you one more thing. If I want to reuse this, I'm going to copy this, and I will put it here. Okay, so the moment I save it, I see the same thing happening here as well. Okay, now this is how we can very easily achieve reusability when we create a React component. How many of you think this is cool? Or how many of you are able to follow? I would like to see yes on the chat. Okay, thank you, Deepa. I'll wait for others as well. Okay, Shivashankari, thank you. Sumita, Sumati, sorry. Thank you, Kavya as well. Yes, it was fast. When you say fast, am I fast or React is fast? Sorry. Amanpreet sir, can you please be specific about that one? React was fast. Yeah, that's one very good thing with React, right? So, what I mean, that's the beauty of front end development in a whole, I should say. Okay, I'll come to your question, Manjaya. I will. Yes, it is like you're calling the function. I will come and answer. But I want to take a minute here and tell that the tooling around front end is mind blowing. Okay, there is so much improvement that has happened. You can actually create web applications on the cloud. We can deploy it for free, and I can give you this link, and when you load it on your mobile or on your laptop, you can actually see this whole thing. Okay, I can do it right now, in fact. So copy sandbox link. Okay, let me do only one change so that you guys don't edit it while I'm working on it. Okay, and I'm going to paste this link. Okay, all you need to do is click on the link and you will see the same thing already, whatever I have written. Okay, now that is how cool the the front end development is, right? You don't need to do anything as long as you have an internet connection, a browser. That is all you want. Okay, you can actually create a whole project here and then also send the link to somebody. Let's say it can be your student, or it can be somebody who is like your client and things like that. Okay, make sure that there are nothing private stuff there. But if you want to do some quick demos, I think this is a wonderful tool. And there is a this is the free tier, but there are also price tiers where you can actually create private stuff. You can do coding together with your teammates. The tooling on the front end is super advanced and super brilliant, right? So that's one thing why all of these things are so fast. Okay, so I want to answer Manjaya's question, Dr. Manjaya. So yes, so this is like a function call. Exactly. You I think you got it right. So here this function gets injected. So basically this goes off and then this gets printed here, it gets printed here, and when you save it, it's the same story, right? And if I remove it at one place, I mean the reusability is not there right now because we have manually done it. So here you see three dots, here it is not there. But what you said is absolutely right. Okay, the moment we are creating a function, that is the whole point of a function, right? Where you create it once and then you reuse it, right? We don't need to repeat the same thing again and again. These are development or principles like dry, right? Don't repeat yourself, such principles. So there is one question from Amanpreet sir. Also explain uh, about the URL which shows in the browser. Uh, this one, this is, I did not get your question very well, but I'll still try. So this is the application itself. Now this is the name of the project. They just randomly created. Okay. And the file is like basically on which file you are. So if I go here and then select index.js, and then if I share this file, you see this thing is selected, right? So it just tells what file is selected. I mean, if that was the question to start with. There are a few other questions, like if I open console window again, how to execute it? If I open console window again, how to execute it? Uh, Shiva Shakti, could you please unmute yourself because I'm having a little bit of not able to understand this question.
Yeah, I have opened my console window. It is showing full white. Okay, so that thing is there. Now I want to see this one again in console window, like the execution. How to do that? Execution. How to do that?
Okay, you don't need to do anything to do the
Okay.
you just have to save the file. And if your
Okay.
console window is open, you can just click on the console and then it goes, or you also have the small
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
arrow here,
Okay.
and when you click on it, it just goes down. Okay. Yeah, all right, cool.
Okay.
I just,
Okay.
because there are multiple console windows. If you go here and then inspect, this is also what we call as a console window. So I just wanted to be clear, what you're referring to. Awesome. Okay. Let
Yeah.
me
Yeah. I
see.
got it. Yeah. I think
Okay,
error
Shiv
is
Shakti.
there. Yeah. So it's the output is not coming. Yeah. I'll check to it. Thank you.
I'm happy to help you. If you can just stay back after the call, we can.
Yeah.
Sir, I am asking about the
Ah,
URL which shows on the right side,
this one.
HTTPS QUU. Yes, yes,
Ah,
sir.
okay, cool. So sorry. That's where adding a bit of context to the question always helps. So this is basically what they give you, and this is already deployed. I guess if I give you this, can somebody check if you can see the same thing as well? Does it show up? In fact, what you can also do is, while we wait for the answer, okay, Manjusha says yes. Thank you, Manjusha. You can also you can actually have your own domain pointed to this. Like for example, if I go here, right, this is my blog, right? This is not where I'm running Code Sandbox, but you can actually have your domain and then navigate to such domain, and you can actually have your applications running on that. That is what this is, right? Rather than giving some other Code Sandbox, this is more of a technical share, right? If you want to edit the code with one of your teammate or something like that, or one of your student, you can share this link. But this is for the end user. Let's say you're working on a business application, right? For them it is better to give this URL, which actually shows your application itself. And the cool thing is, there are tools integrations with GitHub, deployment with Netlify. These are or Vercel or GitHub pages. I mean, if you know how these things work, you can actually deploy the whole thing into your custom domain for free. If you don't have a domain, they will only give you a domain. I mean, at least a more professional domain. So all these things are quite very easily possible with this particular tool. And the beauty is, you don't need anything else to start learning React. You just need to hit this URL and then start playing with this. But otherwise, working on React needs a bit of tooling. Okay, so very important to make sure you start understanding React and not worry a lot about tooling. That's very important as beginners for React. Okay. All right. So now we have about 15 more minutes. So let me see, how much I can cover. And after that, I still want to give you guys about 10 minutes so that you can play with it. Okay. Now, instead of showing hello world everywhere, right? What if we can change it to hello guest, or, whatever, it should be dynamic, right? So for such cases, what we use is something called props. Okay. So here, what we do is similar to how we call class name or ID and things like that, right? When you give a div, when you declare a div, you can pass different attributes, correct? You can pass ID, you can pass inner HTML, inner text. There are so many properties that a div can support, correct? Styles and things like that. Same way here, you can send properties to this. Okay, I will say message is equal to world, right? And then for the second one, um, I will say hello. I will pass as React. Okay. Now, the same component, whatever we have here, we are going to slightly improve it. Okay. So that it starts spinning out, or it starts behaving differently. That's the power of React. Okay. Now we are tapping into actual reusability and also dynamism. What we do is we insert something called props, which is an object, a JavaScript object. And then all we have to do is use that props dynamically. I have to say props dot message. See, the moment I type I'm already getting help. Okay, so this is the beauty of this IDE, or I mean, if you're using Visual Studio Code, all these things come, but it helps you, develop things quickly. Now, with that slight change, you can see that it's the same component. Okay, it's the same component. Yes, very user friendly. And this is why I'm stressing the point once again. If you know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, trust me, React is super easy to learn. Okay, it's the same React component, and now it is behaving differently. Here you see hello world, here you see hello React, and here I can say, I can just add another one, and I can say hello user, and then save it, right? And then it becomes that, or I can say hello guest, right? I just need to declare this once, and then I can use it across my application wherever I want. Now, this is how we start working with reusability. Okay. I'm going to pause here for a second and see if there are any questions for me. I want all of you to understand how this whole thing is working. Okay. So, very happy to take questions. Or if it is clear, put clear on the chat. So, we will go ahead. Message value is what content to be displayed. Exactly. So now message is not fixed. That's another thing. Okay. I can call it whatever I want. I just added message, but it's a variable, right? I can call it message. I can call it text. I can call it string to be shown, whatever, right? It doesn't matter. It need not be message only. Okay. You can use it like just like any other variable. For example, if you are, working on, let's say C or some C++, right? You declare variables. These are all variables. You can call it whatever you want, but make sure you refer to the same name here. That is important. It's not an attribute name. So that's the difference. So very good question, Manjusha. Thank you so much. That's the reason why I encourage all of you to ask questions. See, if you look at HTML tags, now how does a browser know what is a HTML tag and what is a React tag, correct? So if it is a small letter, then browser knows that it is a HTML tag. If it is starting with a capital letter, that's why all our React components should start with a capital letter. Okay, only then it recognizes that, oh, this is not my HTML tag. I would not know this because this is something different. This is a React tag. So I should not just process it as it is, but I should, use some, better tools, and then, let them help me figure out how to render the HTML. That's the major difference when you're writing HTML versus React. The component name has to start with the capital letter. Thank you for that question. Appreciate it. All right. Let's go on, everyone. Now I want to create one more component. I'm going to remove this because it's like, taking, a lot of unnecessary space here. So I'm going to clean it up. When I save it, everything else goes. So I will create another component, uh, which I'm going to call it as input. Okay. So let me just quickly copy paste this in the interest of time, and I will change this one so that, it is available. Okay. So now, instead of returning a div and other things, what I will return is an input tag. Okay, you all understand what is an input tag, correct? Okay, why do we use div tag to start the component? It's a beautiful question. This is why 2 hours is never enough when I talk about React. So, thank you for that question once again. So we need to, it's really not needed to use a div tag. Okay, as long as, that's the example I'm showing right here. Okay, there is no div, but the moment I call this component, see how I have given I as capital here. Okay, input, I can quickly see that I've got a text input field. Okay, it need not, we don't really need to give a div, but usually, at times it is better to pack them under a div. This also works. Okay, I don't need to give it, but this also works. You can see hello world, and when I change the parameter to some 3 dots, right, or if I change, something to hello all, it just works, right? Need not use it, but when you want to pack more than one, component, or more than one HTML tag, we typically reach out to div. Okay, so that's why when we show beginner examples, we always show a div, so that when you get such errors, you understand that, probably we need a div. Okay, I'm going to share a link, where I have documented a few beginner mistakes that, React developers do. Okay, so this will help you all a lot in your, especially in your beginner journey. Okay, uh, I hope you guys can take a look at that when you have some time. Okay, so let's focus on the input. We have about 9 minutes. I think that's enough to complete this demo. Okay, so when I say input, I get this. Okay, what I want to quickly do is I want to build a user login screen. Okay, so username, and then for the lack of time, I will just add some, here password. Okay, that's it, right? Now, as you can see, this is one component, and this is just the static text, right? I have got a login page kind of a thing. Okay, there is one problem in this, code. Can somebody tell me what is the problem in this, what you see on the username and password fields? Can somebody tell me there is one problem? Not encrypted. I think I understand what you're trying to tell me, right? So this is plain text, which should never be the case. Okay, it should never be the case, because there may be somebody standing behind you, or there you may be using a system, where you are in a public place, and it's just not a good thing to show passwords as plain text. Correct. Our practice is to show bullets, or typically star and things like that, right? Now, I'm going to make one small adjustment to this code where both of them works, and that's the beauty of React. Okay, so I will use the type property. Okay, I will say props dot type. Okay, that is all I'm going to do. And then here I will say type is equal to text. And here I will say type is equal to password. Okay, now see what happens the moment I save it. That is all I did. Okay, now it is the same React component. All it is doing is returning an input. But now what we customized was, don't worry, I will tell you what type of a text box I need. Okay, so the moment I say type is equal to text, yes, whatever I type is visible. It's not a password, right? And the moment I give it a type as password, whatever I type here, nobody can see it now. Can you see what I'm typing? Right now, that is how simple it is. Now, to give you some more examples, right? Uh, Let me do it here. Okay. Can somebody tell me what will happen when I click on save? Can somebody tell me what will happen when I just save this file? Button. Super. I mean, of course, this was not needed, but see, all I did was I'm just having one React component and see what are the things that I can build with this, correct? Now I'm going to show you one more example, right? Number. I will say type is equal to number. And then here, when I try to type anything like a string, it won't work, but numbers definitely work, right? All of these things using just one component called input, right? I mean, there are so many things. I can even, put a color. I guess, let me see. I will say color, and then type is equal to, is it color? Oh yeah, color. See, I can do whatever I want, right? All I'm doing is passing a different type of the input. Okay. Does anybody know any other types that can be supported? What happened? Oh, my keyboard has gone. Okay. Anybody knows any other things? Email. Yes. Email, maybe it just doesn't validate well, but it just prints something like that. It is two because I've added this. What else is there? Date. Okay. The moment I give date, it gives me a date calendar. See, I can choose. So basically, I would like to stop here just because of the interest of time, but you understand the beauty of React, right? All we are doing is just utilizing our HTML skills here and then creating a common React component which can play to however we want, correct? We've just set up the component like this, and then eventually, it can cater to multiple needs, whatever the property supports, right? All of this is possible. This is what we call as reusability. And in fact, yes, I totally agree. I mean, that is why I said, if you want to learn React, be very good at, or I mean, at least I don't want to say very good because it's very subjective. As much as HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, everything else in React becomes so much easier. Okay. So I think with that, I definitely wanted to show some more, but in the interest of time, I'm going to stop here. And I will open the forum for any questions that you have. Or if you want to try doing this, I'm happy to support you in case if you're having problems getting around things to work. Okay. So opening the floor for questions or feedback or comment or anything as such. Link is not opening. Sorry, which link are you referring to, Viru sir? Okay, let me just click on that and then bring it here. I'm able to see. So please see if something is wrong at your end. Thank you, Deepa. Very appreciative of that feedback. Yes, I want to thank all of you too. Also, I mean, without you guys, I think this could not have been possible. Really appreciate it. So, yes, there were a few more things that I wanted to understand, but I think as I said, it is always challenging for me to wrap up React in 2 hours because there's so many things. There's so many things, and then we just touch the scratch of this tiny library so far. So, appreciate all of you guys, putting in time. I would be here for about 10 to 15 more minutes. If you all actually are going to try something on Code Sandbox, and if you need my support, I'm here. I just want all of you to give a try and see if you can actually create your first React component, and then from there go on and learn from there. Okay, so I will be here. And also, in case if you want to reach out to me, these are a few places where you can reach out to me. I mean, I'm just looking at the chats that is coming in, and I'm very happy to see them. So please shoot a mail if you are stuck with the beginner exercises, or something you want to understand. This is my email. If you want, you can just take a screenshot of this slide. You can reach me on my email ID. Also, if you have any feedback about this particular session, I would also happy. I know, I think I heard that there was a feedback form. It would be really appreciative if you can give your feedback. It will help me enormously. And then maybe in the next time we speak again, I will bring a better version of me. Right, that's very important. So please do that, or you can also send me an email directly. And Srinivas sir says it could be a little bit of off topic here, but where does React stand when we compare to Angular? Okay, cool. So they are peers, right? So with Angular, I mean NG, I suppose you're meaning Angular. I've worked on Angular, so I understand the terminologies. But for others here, NG is what we use for Angular. So they are peers to start with. First thing is, like, both of them are kind of useful to create web applications, but definitely very very different to each other, right? um, the first thing is, React is simply a library. It cannot do a lot of things. It can just render UI provided you give it some data, right? The data we gave was all like hello world, hello user, right? Things like that, right? That is what we call as data. It can show that data, but it cannot bring the data to you. It cannot go from page A to page B to page C. It cannot cache information for you. There's so many things it cannot do, right? But when you look at Angular as a whole, it supports, it's a framework, so it is like a one-stop solution to do everything, right? It has framework, I mean, it has routing, it has data fetching capabilities, it has rendering capabilities, it has state management capabilities, everything built in. So that's one of the major things. Now, other way of looking at it is, like, if you are a company and you want to take complete control of what technologies you want to use, what libraries you want to use, where I have worked for such companies, right, especially large companies, I've tend to see people opting React, because you have the flexibility. You don't like a library, tomorrow you go ahead and change that library to something else, or you don't trust the library, you write your own library. All these things are possible with React. But when it comes to framework, the cushion to experiment, the cushion to customize, is restricted, right? That's one of the pain points when we talk about libraries versus frameworks. You just have to stick with what they give you. Right. So that was a very good question, Srinivas. I hope I was able to answer that. So let me see if there was any other questions that I have missed. Also, if you can touch base on how many years of React. That's an amazing question. React is a baby right now. So React is like, what? When did it come out? Maybe 2013. So if you look at the giants like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, right? They have been close to 30 years now. And when you look at that, React is basically, I would say, hardly a decade old, not even a decade old now, correct? So, and another thing is, that's not to say that React is going to be alive for a long time, but if you have to look at industry trends, right? So as I said, there is this Stack Overflow surveys which says that a lot of applications are developed with React in mind, because it is easy to pick up. You just need to know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. From there, at least you can manage the basic stuff all yourself, and little bit of React you can get going, right? So the adoption has been extremely wide across the world. So I don't see this going away for the next 10 years. I definitely don't see it going anywhere, right? So happy to share the link for the feedback. This is the feedback link. Oh God, sorry, it's not the feedback link. Copy and paste. Yeah, that's the feedback link. All right. Any other questions? More than happy to answer them. Oh, not at all. It's my pleasure. I really like when I get questions, because when one person asks, everybody is learning some or the other way, and that gives me an opportunity to share, a lot of other things as well, right? So whatever I have worked with. Um, when Mr. Dr. Manjay is asking for my mobile number, I probably can share it with you. If you can please shoot an email, Manjaya, is that okay? I hope you understand. Do we have any recordings of yours? We can explore React further. Um, I do have written quite a few blogs, which I think I've shared the link. You can take a look at them. What I also do is I do weekend classes for free. There is an initiative called Supergrads. I'm going to share that link with you guys here. Supergrads. So this is one of my free initiative that I am doing, where I teach people across the globe React and JavaScript. So it's a 8 weekend program, and whatever you saw is just the snippet of it. It's just a trailer, I can say, where every Saturday, Sunday we talk about 3 hours with React. So we start with JavaScript basics, and then 4 weekends, and then the next 4 weekends we learn React, and then eventually you will learn a lot of things in a much more detailed way with React and JavaScript. So that's one of the initiatives I do over the weekends, and it is free. Everybody is welcome to join. So this is our website. You can just take a look at it. We will start the next cohort in February, like a month from now. The classes will be similar. It will be interactive. It will be live. We don't usually record because of financial reasons. But otherwise, I think, you should, everything else will remain the same. Yeah, thank you. Trying to help as much as possible. That because somebody taught us, we're just trying to, do the same thing to others. That was all. Thank you, Jaypriya. I think if there are no questions, probably we can wind it up for today. I'm very glad, 65 of you joined this, and then I hope it was a little useful for all of you. I hope I kind of created a small spark where you can start picking up React, and eventually make upskill yourself, and figure out how to get going with React. Really wish I could have been on video, but my video, I think there was some error, and then it's definitely it's just a mess right now with my video. So sorry about that. But it was amazing to meet you all. It was really nice to talk to all of you, interacting with you guys. I had a great time. I hope you all also had a great time. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Sunita ma'am, Shivatsala ma'am, Salini ma'am, all yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sandeep, it's a great session. It was a great session, and the way the faculty were responding to you, it definitely it was a very interactive and good session. I hope people will start learning React.js now. You must have triggered a spark in them, definitely. Thanks a lot for the wonderful session. And we look forward for your next session. Now, I think nobody's going to miss your next session.
Thank you so much. Thank
Really,
you
it
so
was
much.
a wonderful session, Sandeep. Sir. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you, ma'am.
sharing your great knowledge to, for our all fellow faculty members and industry people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Faculty kindly join by 1:45 to 2 for the next session. Thank you all. Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you, HOD ma'am.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.